Let's move on to relative speed. This is one of the very important topics in time, speed and distance. So in order to understand this better, let's assume an example. Let's assume two boys, Arun and Varun, are running in the opposite directions. Let's assume him as Arun and he is Varun. So his speed is 20 meters per second and Varun's speed is 10 meters per second. And they are starting at the distance of 60 meters. So this is at the 0th second. 60 meters is the distance between them. Let's see what happens after every second. So in the first second, both of them will get closer, right? Obviously, they are traveling in the opposite directions. So in 1 second, Arun will travel 20 meters and Varun would have traveled 10 meters. So out of total 60, 30 meters got reduced, right? In the first second. What happens in the next second? So in the second, what happens? The distance between them will be 0 meters because Arun would have traveled another 20 meters, Varun would have traveled 10 more meters. So totally this 30 meters distance would have been covered and they would have met each other. At the end of every 1 second, they are getting closer by how many meters? 30 meters. So this 30 meters for every 1 second is called as the relative speed between them, right? So relative speed can exist only when both the objects are in motion. Yes. So we can arrive at this 30 meters per second as relative speed by calculating through their speeds itself, which is nothing but relative speed is equal to 20 plus 10 meters per second, which is equal to 30 meters per second. So this is simple because when moving in opposite directions, we have to add the speeds in order to get the relative speed. So let's understand this with the help of an example. Ajay and Bala live 24 km apart. They both start walking towards each other at 5 km per hour and 3 km per hour speed. After how much time they will meet? So given that Ajay and Bala are 24 km apart, they both start walking towards each other, which means that they are facing towards each other. So Ajay is starting at 5 km per hour and Bala is coming at the speed of 3 kilometers per hour. So both of them are walking towards each other. So relative speed exists. It is asked to find the time of their meeting, right? So firstly, let's calculate the relative speed. As they are walking towards each other, we have to add both of their speeds. Speed of A plus speed of B, which is equal to 5 plus 3, 8 kilometers per hour. From the basic relation of speed, which is equal to distance by time taken. From this we can say time is equal to distance by speed. As we want the meeting time between Ajay and Bala, we have to divide the distance between them by relative speed. Yes, so distance between them will be 24 kilometers divided by relative speed is 8. So it is equal to 3 hours. So Ajay and Bala will meet after 3 hours. Let's see the next type. So assuming the same example, so Arun starts from his point at the speed of 20 meters per second and Varun starts from his point at the speed of 10 meters per second. In this case, both of them are traveling in the same direction. So the initial distance between them is 30 meters. Assume it as 30 meters. So this is at the 0th second. So at the end of 1 second, what happens? Both of them are traveling in the same direction. So at the end of 1 second, Arun would have traveled 20 meters and from this point, Varun would have traveled 10 meters. So from 30 meters, the distance between them is reduced by 20 meters. So because out of 30, 20 gone here, so 10 meters will be remaining and plus this 10, it will be 20 meters at the end of first second. In the next second, what happens? Arun would have traveled 20 and Varun would have traveled 10 meters, right? So now the distance between them is 10 meters at the end of second. So we can say that at the end of every 1 second, 10 meter is getting reduced. So initially 30, in the first second 20, second 10. So they are getting closer by 10 meters at the end of every 1 second, right? So 10 meters for every 1 second. So this is what we can say as the relative speed between them. So this case, we can directly subtract 20 meters and 10 meters. We can arrive at 10 meters per second. So when people are traveling in the same direction, we have to find the difference of their speeds. So let's solve a problem under this case. A policeman chases a thief who is 100 meters ahead of him. If the thief runs at 9 meters per second and the policeman at 30 meters per second, in how much time will the policeman catch the thief? So given that the policeman is catching a thief, so the distance between them is like 100 meters. Thief is running at 9 meters per second and the policeman is running at 13 meters per second. So the policeman is catching the thief, right? So they are traveling in the same direction. We want the time taken by the policeman to catch the thief. So we know that time is equal to distance by speed. So we want the catching time of the police. So we have to use relative speed here. As both of them are running, we can say that they are in motion. So relative speed exists. So distance between them is 100 meters divided by the relative speed. As they are traveling in the same direction, so the relative speed between them is 13 difference 9. So which is equal to 100 divided by 4. So our answer is 25 seconds. So the policeman will catch the thief after 25 seconds.